looking at the numbers for Terrifier 3,
Mm-hmm.
it actually completely defies the laws of Hollywood physics.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does.
I mean, we are so conditioned to believe that to make money in the movie business right now, you need a massive Marvel budget, you need a Super Bowl commercial spot,
right.
and, a PG-13 rating so you can sell toys to teenagers.
Yeah.
And then
And here comes a silent clown with a hacksaw.
exactly, a silent clown with a hacksaw who breaks literally every single one of those rules and just somehow ends up printing money.
It is a statistical anomaly. Absolutely. If you put this on a graph next to the major studio releases of the last, say, 5 years, Terrifier sits in a quadrant all by itself.
Oh, completely.
I mean, we are looking at a franchise that started as a grainy, low-budget anthology segment and has just mutated into this global box office juggernaut.
And that is exactly what we need to unpack today. For everyone listening, we aren't just talking about a standard slasher movie here. We are doing a full deep dive.
Yes, we are.
We're looking at a pretty massive stack of sources today, ranging from some breaking news about the upcoming Terrifier 4, which, by the way, we have some major updates on that we'll get into.
Oh, exciting updates.
Yeah, and we're also pulling box office analytics from Koimoy to look at the numbers, and then we're taking you all the way into the deep end. We have this really dense academic dissertation on what's called paracinema and extreme horror.
Right, which will help us ground all of this.
Exactly. Our mission today is to figure out how a $2 million movie makes $85 million, and more importantly, what it says about us that we are lining up around the block to see it.
That is the key question, isn't it? The economics are fascinating, obviously, but the psychology is where the real story is.
For sure.
Like, why do audiences actually crave this specific type of extreme content? Because we have sources here analyzing films like Solo and Serbian film.
Movies that make Terrifier look like a Disney cartoon, honestly.
In some respects, yes. And looking at those will help us understand the broader spectrum of horror we're dealing with here.
So it's a bit of a journey today. We're going to start with the money and the immediate news, but just a heads up to you listening, we're definitely heading into some dark waters later on when we get into the film theory.
It gets heavy.
It does. But let's start with the immediate hook. If you follow horror news, or honestly, if you're just on social media at all, you've probably seen the headlines. Damien Leone, the creator and director of the franchise, has confirmed Terrifier 4 is officially in the works.
Yes. This broke recently via Collider and Dread Central. Leone dropped this news around his birthday, actually, on January 29th, 2025.
Happy birthday to him and to us.
Right. And he didn't just say, hey, I'm writing a script. He gave us a very specific, very tantalizing promise about the narrative direction of this next film.
Which is the origin reveal.
Exactly. He stated point blank that the mission of Terrifier 4 is to finally reveal Art's origin.
Which, if you think about it, is a massive gamble.
It is a huge risk.
Because right now, Art the Clown is scary precisely because he's ambiguous. He's just this force of nature. He shows up, he mimes, he saw someone in half, and he leaves.
Yeah.
We don't know if he's a demon, a curse, or just, a guy in a suit who really needs to see a dermatologist. Promising to explain what he is, that changes the entire dynamic of the franchise.
It really does. It's a classic narrative double-edged sword. On the one hand, audiences are naturally curious. We want to know why. We want the lore.
Always.
You see this with every major villain, right?
Yeah.
From Darth Vader to Hannibal Lecter. We want the backstory. But the risk, and this is something we will discuss in depth when we get to the film theory, is that explanation often kills the fear.
Oh, absolutely.
Once you categorize the monster, you strip away a lot of its power.
It's the difference between hearing a noise in the dark and then turning on the light to see the cat that knocked over the vase. The noise is terrifying. The cat is just annoying.
That's a great way to put it. But Leone seems very confident. I mean, he's calling this script epic, thrilling, nasty, horrifying, emotional, and utterly satisfying.
That emotional tag is the one that really sticks out to me, isn't it? We don't usually associate Art the Clown with emotional storytelling.
No, not at all.
I mean, unless you count nausea as an emotion, which I certainly do when I'm watching these movies.
Fair point.
But there's a funny disconnect happening here, because while Leone is hyping up the script to the press, the actual cast seems to be completely in the dark.
They are.
We have this interview with Lauren Lavera, who plays Sienna Shaw, basically the archangel to Art's demon, and she is saying she hasn't read a single page.
Yeah, this was from a Dread Central update in February 2025.
Yeah.
She confirmed that Leone is keeping the script completely under wraps.
Wow.
She doesn't know what happens, and David Howard Thornton, who literally plays Art, doesn't know either.
I just love the idea of the main actor not knowing his own origin story yet. It adds this great layer of genuine surprise to the whole production.
It does.
Lavera had a really interesting quote about what she wants for her character, though. She said she wants retribution. She wants Sienna to get a win, regardless of whether she survives or not.
Now, that distinction, regardless of survival, that is crucial in the horror genre.
Yeah.
She specifically mentioned hoping that the characters Jonathan and Gabby survive, but for herself. She seems almost resigned to a darker fate, as long as she takes Art down with her.
Right, the ultimate sacrifice.
Exactly. It aligns perfectly with the final girl trope we see evolving in modern horror, which we'll touch on later. But the fact that the actors are being kept in the dark strongly suggests that Leone has a twist that he is terrified will leak.
And leaks are the enemy of horror. If you know the jump scare is coming, you don't jump.
Exactly.
But before we go too deep into speculating on the plot of the fourth movie, we have to talk about the reality of this franchise's success right now. Because Terrifier 3 making money isn't just good news for the filmmakers, it's a literal case study that business schools should probably be teaching.
Absolutely. Let's look at the raw data from Koimoy. Terrifier 3 grossed over $85 million worldwide.
Unbelievable.
To break that down, it did about $53.98 million in North America, and then another $31.25 million overseas.
Okay, $85 million. Now, in a world where movies regularly make $1 billion, that might sound like mid-tier money to the casual observer listening to this, but you have to look at the cost.
Precisely. The production budget for Terrifier 3 was roughly $2 million.
$2 million. That's the catering budget for a Marvel movie.
Literally.
That is the cost of the wigs in a period drama.
It really is. And when you run the math on that, that is a return on investment, an ROI of over 42 times the budget.
That's 2 times.
That is a 4,161% return. There is almost no legal industry on Earth where you can get a return like that.
Seriously.
If you invested in tech stocks, you'd be thrilled with a 10 or 20% return. This is 4,000%.
And they didn't do it the easy way either. I remember when Terrifier 2 came out, it was this crazy word-of-mouth thing. But for Terrifier 3, they had a bit more backing. Yet the marketing spend was still microscopic compared to the big studios.
It was. Cineverse, the distributor, spent only about $500,000 on marketing.
$500,000. That's it.
That is pennies in Hollywood. Just for context, a major studio horror film like Smile or The Conjuring might spend $20 to $50 million just on marketing.
Just on ads.
Yeah. TV spots, billboards, YouTube homepage takeovers. Cineverse spent $500K.
So how do they do it? How do you get $85 million worth of people into theater seats with $500,000 of ads?
Well, Chris McGurk, the head of Cineverse, gave a really insightful breakdown of this strategy. He basically said that the traditional model blanketing national media buying primetime TV spots is a waste of time for a film like this.
Makes sense.
Instead, they focused on hyper-identifying the fan base.
Which means they went exactly to where the gorehounds live online.
Exactly. They utilized sites like Bloody Disgusting. They used their own streaming platform, Screenbox. And they relied heavily on social media virality.
Right.
They knew that Terrifier fans aren't watching the nightly news or Wheel of Fortune. They're on TikTok. They're on Reddit. They're on niche horror forums. By targeting those specific nodes, they activated what we call an active audience.
Okay, we're going to talk about that term active audience a lot today, because that really seems to be the core difference here. A passive audience just clicks play on whatever happens to be on the front page of Netflix.
Exactly.
An active audience actually buys a ticket, physically goes to a theater, dresses up as a bloody clown, and films themselves reacting to the shower scene.
And that engagement is worth more than any billboard you could buy. When you have fans creating content about your content, that is free marketing.
The Holy Grail.
It creates a massive FOMO effect, a fear of missing out. People weren't going to see Terrifier 3 just because it looked like a well-crafted movie.
Yeah.
They were going to see it because everyone on their feed was talking about how shocking it was. Yeah, it became a cultural event.
The challenge aspect is huge. I remember seeing videos of people warning each other online, don't eat before you go, or someone passed out in my theater and they had to call an ambulance.
Right.
In a normal world, someone passed out is a terrible review for a business. For Terrifier, that's the best review you can possibly get.
It validates the product completely. It promises an extreme experience. And the result is that Terrifier 3 is now officially the highest-grossing unrated film of all time.
That is a massive milestone. I mean, unrated used to be the kiss of death in the industry.
It really did.
It meant AMC or Regal theaters wouldn't book you, newspapers wouldn't run your print ads. It meant you were relegated to the dusty back corner of the video store.
But the landscape has completely shifted. The theatrical distribution model right now is desperate for hits. If an unrated killer clown movie can fill seats on a Friday night when big, bloated superhero movies are struggling to break even, the theaters are going to book the clown.
Money talks.
Money talks. And this success signals that the mainstream audience is actually much more willing to consume extreme content than the studios previously thought.
So we have the money side of it. We have the incredible David versus Goliath marketing success. But I want to pivot to the why.
Yes.
Why are we like this? Why do you, me, and millions of other people want to sit in a dark room and watch a clown meticulously destroy people? We have this dissertation in our source stack. It's titled Extreme Horror and the Extremely Horrifying, and it dives deep into the psychology of the monster.
This is where we get to really peel back the layers. The dissertation references several key film theorists to explain this, starting with Robin Wood.
Okay.
Now, Wood is basically one of the godfathers of horror criticism, and he has a very simple, elegant definition of the genre. He says, normality is threatened by the monster.
Normality is threatened by the monster. Okay,
Yeah.
So in a standard old-school slasher, normality is the teenagers drinking beer at the lake house, and the monster is Jason Voorhees showing up to ruin the party.
Correct. But Wood goes deeper than just the plot level. He argues that the monster represents the other.
The other.
Yes. It is everything that society represses, refuses to accept, or pushes to the margins. It is the return of the repressed. The monster attacks the status quo.
Well, in Terrifier, Art attacks literally everything. He attacks Halloween in the first ones. He attacks Christmas in the new one. He completely attacks the sanctity of the human body.
He does. But there is another theorist mentioned in the dissertation, Noel Carroll, who offers a concept that I think explains Art the Clown better than anything else we've read.
What's that?
It's called impurity.
Impurity.
Yes. Carroll argues that we find things horrific when they are interstitial. That's a fancy academic word for things that cross boundaries,
Right.
things that don't fit neatly into our established mental categories.
Okay.
He uses an example from an anthropologist named Mary Douglas, that is. Well, it's about a lobster.
A lobster. Okay, walk me through this lobster thing.
Yeah.
How do we get from a lobster to a serial killer clown?
It's all about categories. Think about a fish. It lives in the sea, it has scales, it swims. It perfectly fits our mental category of sea creature.
Right.
Now think about an insect. It lives on land, it has a hard shell, it crawls around. It fits the category of land bug.
Sure.
Now look at a lobster. It lives in the sea, but it has a shell and legs and crawls around exactly like a bug. It violates the boundary between swimming thing and crawling thing. It is an anomaly.
I see.
According to Douglas and Carroll, that confusion, that sheer inability to categorize it neatly, creates a primal sense of impurity or revulsion in the human brain.
That actually makes a lot of sense. It's why people are so creeped out by things that are slimy, right? Because your brain is like, is this solid or is this liquid? I don't like it.
Exactly. It's boundary crossing. Now, apply that interstitial concept to Art the Clown. What is he?
Well, he's a clown. And clowns are supposed to be funny, playful, safe. They are literally designed for kids.
Right. But Art is a silent, sadistic butcher. He crosses the boundary of entertainer and killer. He is funny in his movements. He mimes. He laughs silently. He does little physical comedy bits. But his actions are pure cruelty.
So he's mixing the signals.
Constantly. He also crosses the boundary of living and dead.
Oh, that's true.
In the first movie, he seems mostly human. By the end, he shoots himself in the head and then just comes back to life in the morgue. In the second and third films, he is clearly some sort of supernatural entity, yet he interacts physically with the world. He bleeds. He is a walking contradiction.
He breaks the rules of what a person should be. Even his silence is impure in a way.
How so?
Well, a clown usually talks, makes jokes, honks a horn. Art never makes a single sound, even when he's brutally hurt. It's that cognitive dissonance that makes your skin crawl. You literally don't know how to file him in your brain.
Precisely. And because you can't categorize him, you can't predict him. And that brings us to the postmodern aspect of horror that the dissertation discusses.
Okay, let's get into that.
In a classic fairy tale or an old-school classic monster movie, you have a very rigid structure.
Yeah.
The monster appears, the brave hero fights the monster dies, and normality is restored. The sun rises.
The credits roll, Everyone is happy and safe.
But in postmodern horror, that contract with the audience is completely broken. The happy ending is not guaranteed at all. In fact, normality is often permanently destroyed.
Right.
The theory here, referencing a scholar named Isabel Pinedo, is that to defeat the monster, the hero has to enter the irrational realm.
The irrational realm. That sounds exactly like where Sienna is right now in the story.
It is. The theory states that the hero must become as violent, as destructive, and as chaotic as the monster in order to survive. They have to shed their own purity and fully embrace the horror.
We absolutely saw that in Terrifier 2. I mean, Sienna starts out as this normal girl making cosplay wings in her bedroom, and by the end of the movie, she is literally decapitating a demon in a surreal, blood-soaked carnival attraction. She isn't just a victim running up the stairs screaming, she's a warrior, but a very, very bloody one.
And that leads to a really dark implication for Terrifier 4. The dissertation notes, and I quote, "The hero is no longer pure, and the goal can never actually be obtained."
Wow.
Even if Sienna kills Art once and for all, she can't go back to being the girl she was before. She has seen the other side. She has been touched by the impurity.
That's the real tragedy of it, isn't it? The final girl survives the night, but she doesn't really get to live after that. She's permanently haunted.
Always.
And talking about being haunted, we need to zoom out a bit here, because Terrifier feels extremely extreme to the average viewer. I mean, the bedroom scene in Terrifier 2.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I don't even need to describe it. If you're listening and you know, it's unbelievably gruesome.
It is incredibly visceral.
But in the grand scheme of what academics call extreme cinema, Art the Clown is actually pretty accessible.
Surprisingly so, yes.
Our source stack includes an analysis of films that make Terrifier look like a chaotic frat party. We're talking about films that aren't fun, scary, but soul-crushing scary.
Right, and it is important to contextualize this extremity, because Terrifier is what we traditionally call splatter.
Okay, splatter.
Yes. It is heavily focused on the literal destruction of the human body, but it's done with a heightened, almost slapstick tone. The practical effects are so over the top that it allows you to distance yourself, but there is a wide spectrum of extreme cinema.
Let's talk about the film that became an internet punchline because of how notoriously gross it was, The Human Centipede.
Right, Tom Six's film.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing is that most people haven't actually seen it, but almost everybody knows the premise.
Oh, for sure.
And that is exactly the point.
Yeah.
The dissertation argues that The Human Centipede is a masterpiece of marketing, not necessarily a masterpiece of filmmaking.
It was the 100% medically accurate claim for me. I remember seeing that tagline on the poster and thinking, I highly doubt any medical board signed off on this.
The horror of that film is almost entirely in the concept. You can summarize the horror in one incredibly vulgar sentence. 3 people surgically sewn together end to end. You don't even need to watch the movie to be horrified by it. The trailer showed you the medical diagram, and for most people, that was enough.
So why did people actually pay to watch it?
For the status.
Yeah.
It ties directly back to that concept of the active audience we were talking about earlier. Watching The Human Centipede wasn't about enjoying a compelling narrative. It was an endurance test.
It was a dare.
Exactly, a dare. You watched it so you could tell your friends at the bar the next day, yeah, I saw it, I survived it.
It's a badge of honor. I have a stronger stomach than you do.
Exactly. It constructs the viewer's identity as a hardcore horror fan. But then, as you move further along the spectrum of extreme cinema, you hit a film like Irreversible by Gaspar Noé.
Okay.
And this is where things get much more psychological and far less gimmicky.
Now, I have not seen Irreversible, but I know the structure is the famous part, right? It's told entirely backwards.
Yes, reverse chronology. It starts with the very end of the story and ends with the beginning. But this isn't just a fun stylistic choice like Christopher Nolan did in Memento.
Right.
In Irreversible, the film begins with a brutal, chaotic, incredibly violent murder in a gay club called the Rectum.
Okay.
It is hellish.
Yeah.
Nauseating, spinning camera work, a low-frequency soundtrack designed to make you physically sick. And then, as the movie progresses backwards, block by block, we see the events that led to that murder.
And we eventually see the inciting incident.
We do. We see a roughly 10-minute single-take scene of horrific sexual violence. It is unblinking, the camera does not cut away, and it is incredibly difficult to watch. But then the movie just continues backwards to the beginning of the day, showing the characters happy, in love, expecting a baby, completely unaware of what's coming.
So you end the movie on this beautiful, happy moment, but you as the viewer already know it's going to be completely destroyed.
Exactly. The true horror isn't just the violence, it's the structure itself. The dissertation points out that the film is basically a thesis statement. Time destroys everything.
Man.
Because we see the destruction first, the happiness at the end feels entirely hollow. It's devastating.
That sounds awful. Like, effectively awful as a piece of art, but definitely not something you sit down and watch with a bowl of popcorn on a Friday night.
No, absolutely not. And unlike Terrifier or an action movie like John Wick, there is zero catharsis.
Right, because normally you want the payoff.
Exactly. In a normal revenge movie, you see the bad thing happen, then the hero hunts down the bad guy, kills him, and you cheer. You feel a sense of justice being restored.
Yeah.
But in Irreversible, because it's backwards, you see the brutal revenge first before you even know why it's happening.
Yeah.
And to make it infinitely worse, it is eventually revealed that the hero brutally kills the wrong man in the club.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. So it denies you the satisfaction of revenge entirely.
Completely. It strips away the comforting fantasy of revenge. It forces you to sit with the sheer ugliness of violence, with it the moral safety net of justice. It creates a profound sense of helplessness for the viewer.
That is a remarkably heavy concept, and I think it brings us perfectly to this specific term the dissertation focuses on, paracinema.
Yes.
Because we've been throwing around titles like Terrifier, The Human Centipede, Irreversible, and to a mainstream highbrow film critic, these might all just be dismissed as trash. But paracinema suggests there is actual value here.
Paracinema is a fascinating concept. It was coined by a film scholar named Jeffrey Sconce. Essentially, it is the deliberate appreciation of trash, lowbrow, or rejected films. It forms an alternative canon.
So it's basically the fans saying, hey, Academy Awards, you guys like The English Patient. Well, we like The Toxic Avenger, and our art is just as culturally valid as yours.
That is exactly it. It is a form of cultural rebellion against elitism. Sconce argues that by championing these despised, gritty films, the audience actually gains a form of cultural capital. They feel superior to the mainstream audience because they can handle the extreme content, or because they see the ironic genius in a technically bad movie.
It's basically the hipster mindset, but for gore. I like the stuff you're too afraid to even look at.
There is absolutely an element of that, but there is also a deeply communal aspect to paracinema. The dissertation talks at length about midnight movies. Think about the culture around the Rocky Horror Picture Show, or even the rowdy screenings of The Room.
Or frankly, the Terrifier screenings happening right now.
Yes, it becomes a ritual. You go to the theater, maybe you dress up in costume, you shout at the screen, you cheer loudly when someone's head gets chopped off. You aren't just a passive viewer sitting quietly in the dark. You are actively part of the performance. The audience is the show.
That perfectly explains the Clown Cafe pop-ups and the thousands of people dressing as Art the Clown for Halloween. It's a tribe. You're finding your people.
And that tribalism is incredibly powerful.
Right.
But, and here is where we have to go to the darkest part of the source material. Sometimes that tribe follows the path all the way to the very edge of the cliff.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the two films that act as the ultimate gatekeepers of extreme cinema. Solo and a Serbian film.
These are the names that even hardcore horror fans whisper. And honestly, I feel like we need a brief disclaimer here for you listening. We aren't going to describe everything that happens in these movies because, frankly, we get taken off the air. But our goal is to discuss why they matter to this theory of extreme horror. We're looking at what the academics say about them.
Exactly. So let's start with Solo, or The 120 Days of Sodom. It was released in 1975, directed by the Italian filmmaker Pier Paolo Pasolini. Now, this is considered by many critics to be a genuine cinematic masterpiece, but it's also one of the most frequently banned films in history.
And it's set in fascist Italy, right, during World War II.
Yes. It adapts the Marquis de Sade's writing, which is where we get the word sadism. But Pasolini transports the setting to the end of WWII in the Republic of Solo.
Got it.
The plot is that four wealthy, powerful men, the Duke, the Bishop, the Magistrate, and the President, kidnap a group of teenagers and subject them to 120 days of unimaginable physical, sexual, and psychological torture.
Which just sounds like pure exploitation.
It sounds like it on paper, but the execution is what makes it unique and why academics study it. Pasolini doesn't shoot it like a traditional horror movie or an exploitation film. He shoots it almost like a documentary.
Interesting.
It is cold, it is static, it is perfectly symmetrical. There's no dramatic music swelling to tell you how to feel. It is just presenting the atrocity, completely unvarnished.
There's a specific scene the dissertation highlights that really nails the theme of the movie, the binoculars scene.
Ah, yes. This is the climax of the film. The four men are in a massive villa, and the worst of the torture is happening down in the courtyard below. But instead of going down there to participate, they sit up in a comfortable room by a window and take turns watching it happen through binoculars.
So they intentionally detach themselves from the violence.
They create a safe distance. They are consumers of the violence. But Pasolini does something brilliant and terrifying here. He literally points the camera through the binoculars.
Right.
So when we, the audience, watch the scene, the screen is physically masked to look like we are looking through binoculars.
So we are seeing exactly what the fascists are seeing.
We are seeing what they see and how they see it. We are placed firmly in the perspective of the torturer. Pasolini is deliberately implicating us. He is saying to the viewer, you are sitting safely in a theater watching humans suffering for entertainment. How are you any different from the Duke sitting safely at the window?
That is incredibly uncomfortable. It turns the camera back on the viewer. It's not just a movie anymore, it's an accusation.
Exactly. It forces you to confront your own voyeurism. And that specific theme of audience complicity is pushed to its absolute breaking point in the other film we need to discuss, a Serbian film from 2010.
Okay, this one. This one creates massive arguments every single time it's brought up. It is infamous for scenes involving, well, let's just say it involves violence against the most vulnerable subjects imaginable, including newborns. It is fundamentally vile.
It is deeply repellent. But impartial reporting here, we have to look at what the director, Srđan Spasojević, says about his own work. He has a very specific defense for it. He claims the film is not exploitation, but a political metaphor.
A metaphor for what, exactly?
He argues that the extreme violence represents the Serbian government screwing its people, literally and metaphorically, for decades. He claims the horrific victimization in the film perfectly mirrors the victimization of the Serbian population by their leadership and by the international community.
Okay, I have to stop you there, because that just sounds like a massive cop-out to me. You film a baby being harmed and then claim it's highbrow political commentary. Does anyone in the academic world actually buy that, or is the director just trolling us to justify making a snuff film?
And that is the central debate that surrounds this movie. Is it a valid metaphor, or is it just a shield to hide behind? The dissertation explores this tension at length. There is a character in the film, a porn director named Vukmir, who makes these extreme snuff films within the narrative of the movie, and he has a line of dialogue that is crucial. Victim cells.
Victim cells.
Yes. He argues that the global market actively demands to see victims. The foreign market, meaning the West, wants to see suffering. Spasojević is suggesting that we, the Western audience, are the ones demanding this brutal content. By watching a Serbian film, we are proving his point.
So it's a trap. If you watch it, you are the exact monster he's critiquing. But if you don't watch it, you don't get the political message.
Precisely. It's an aggressive, hostile attack on the audience. Unlike Terrifier, which invites you to have fun with the over-the-top gore, a Serbian film hates you for watching it. It wants to punish you.
But isn't there a line? I mean, at what point does the metaphor fail completely because the image on screen is just too destructive to look past?
That is the subjective line of extreme horror, and everyone's line is different. For some film scholars, Salo is profound art, and a Serbian film is indefensible trash. For others, both are vital pieces of paracinema.
Right.
But the connection back to Terrifier is this. These deeply controversial films carved out the cultural space. They violently pushed the boundaries of the watchable. Terrifier 3 is a mainstream $85 million success today because these earlier films stretched the rubber band of cultural tolerance so far over the last few decades that a clown with a hacksaw now seems manageable.
That is a wild perspective. We are essentially desensitized because the truly taboo boundaries were broken decades ago.
Exactly.
So, bringing this all back to Art the Clown. We have this dense history of extreme cinema. We have the insane box office success. And we have Damien Leone's promise of an origin in Terrifier 4.
Yes.
Based on everything we've discussed today, the impurity theory, the fission figures, the heavy religious imagery in the last two movies, what do we actually think this origin is going to be?
Well, let's look at the clues we have. First, we have the pale girl entity from the second movie.
Right, the little mime girl with the glowing eyes who hangs around Art.
Right. Is she a completely separate entity? Is she the devil? Or is she actually a manifestation of a part of Art? The dissertation mentions a theory of fission figures. These are characters that split into multiple conflicting identities in one body, kind of like Jekyll and Hyde.
Okay, that's possible.
But there's also the possession theory.
The idea that Art was originally just a regular human man who was possessed by something.
Yes. And Leone has heavily hinted at the Ninth Circle reference in the past. Remember, the Ninth Circle was the title of his original short film that first introduced art.
Right.
In Dante's Inferno, the Ninth Circle of Hell is reserved for treachery. It's a frozen lake where Satan himself is trapped in the ice.
Frozen lake. Wait, we saw a lot of ice imagery in Terrifier 3.
We did. And Art seems to have ice in his veins, metaphorically and maybe literally. If the origin reveals that Art is actually a human vessel for a demon specifically from the Ninth Circle, it perfectly fits the religious imagery of Sienna as the angel.
It becomes a literal holy war, good versus evil.
Exactly.
But here's my biggest worry with all of this. If they explain it too much, if they sit down and say, Art was a guy named Barry from New Jersey who found a cursed book in his basement, doesn't that just ruin the magic?
It absolutely risks the human centipede problem. Once you know the trick, the magic fades. The mystery of Art, the fact that he just inexplicably is his greatest asset as a monster. Demystifying him might satisfy our intellectual curiosity in the short term, but it might permanently kill the horror.
And what about Sienna? We talked about the postmodern hero having to enter the irrational realm. Lauren Lavera said she wants her win. But if she wins, does she actually survive in any meaningful way?
If we follow the established trajectory of postmodern extreme horror, a win usually looks like a Pyrrhic victory.
Meaning she loses too much to enjoy it.
Right. She might successfully destroy Art, but she will likely have to sacrifice her remaining humanity to do it. She might become the new guardian of the gateway, or she might simply die knowing she stopped him. But the idea of her just dusting herself off, going back to college and having a normal life, I think that ship has well and truly sailed.
Yeah, you don't come back from decapitating a demon in the irrational realm and just get a desk job. She's permanently marked by the impurity.
She is. And in a strange way, so is the audience. We have seen things in this franchise that stick with you long after the credits roll.
So let's wrap this up. We've gone from the absolute financial miracle of a $2 million clown movie making $85 million to the marketing philosophy of the active audience, all the way down to the absolute darkest corners of cinema history with Slow and a Serbian film. It's been a lot to process.
It has been a massive journey. And I think the big takeaway for you, the learner listening today, is to realize that horror is a deeply complex machine. It's not just fake blood and cheap jump scares.
No, not at all.
It's about economics, it's about communal rituals, and it's about profound psychology. It's about how we as a society define normality and how we deal with the other.
And it's about recognizing our own active role in the consumption of it.
That is the final thought I really want to leave everyone with. Go back to that line from a Serbian film, Victim Cells. We could sit here and analyze the high-minded film theory all day long, but at the end of the day, Terrifier 3 made $85 million because we bought the ticket.
You want to see the carnage.
Exactly. We're the ones looking through the binoculars.
We are. We are funding the spectacle. So when Terrifier 4 finally comes out and Leone reveals this grand origin and the gore hits the screen in a crowded theater, just remember, Art the Clown exists because we invited him in.
We demanded him.
That is a haunting thought to end on. Victim cells, and right now business is booming. We will absolutely be watching closely when that Terrifier 4 script finally turns into a movie. Until then, maybe check your closets tonight and keep the lights on.
Stay curious, everyone.